Our first session today is going to focus on connections and active collaborations. And I'm going to be talking to two really incredible impact entrepreneurs. Joining us from Kenya is Vava Angwenyi, who is the founder and chief coffeeholic of Vava Coffee. Vava is also the co-founder of Vava. You're going to need to help me with the pronunciation here, okay? Because last night I was looking at the name of the organization, and I was like, I'm totally going to mess this up, but I'm going to try. Gente del Futuro.
Gente del futuro. In
Gente
Spanish.
del futuro.
Yeah.
Spanish. Okay, guys, like
it's fine.
I tried, I tried.
Yeah.
So Vava aims to contribute to better future prospects for the coffee communities and the industry as a whole. And then we also have Sade, who is joining us from the UK. Sade Banks is the founder of Sour Lemons UK, which addresses the lack of diversity in leadership within the creative and cultural sectors. Ladies, welcome. And thank you so much for joining us and making the time to be with us today. I'm really excited to hear your stories and your journey. So first up, Vava, I think I'll start with you. Can you just give us a brief background about yourself and also your love and passion for coffee and how that translated into the businesses that you're now a part of?
Right, thanks. First, let me say I'm very excited to be joining everyone here today, and to the impact entrepreneurs. Congratulations for advancing this far in the program. And it's been a long time coming. I think we started talking with Lindsay, I think it was last year. So I was excited that in spite of COVID and I mean how we're living today, that you guys were still able to put this together. So thanks a lot for inviting me. So just of course, I think it's really tough for any entrepreneur who's been at it for a while to really summarize their story in even like 5 minutes. It requires a book, and I think and it is. And it's both an interesting journey, and I think right now, with retrospect to everything that I've been through, I'd say some of those tough times that happened were really great learning lessons when I look at them in hindsight. But of course, when you're in the thick of things, you're just like sort of shaking your head and you're like, why did I get into this? Yeah. So so my love for coffee, or my love for all things agriculture and farming, came basically out of curiosity. And I would say it was first, I was, that student that loved to sip on a good cup of coffee every morning. So it came out of an addiction for coffee first, and then a curiosity of asking questions around basically the socioeconomic aspects that surround agricultural produce from Africa. Mm-hmm. And of course, this happened to me when, having been flung far off, when I was doing my undergrad in Canada, and just asking questions around if producers are actually getting paid to actually cover the cost of production, how the coffee is marketed, if we're being authentic to the stories that are being told about the people that actually toil really hard to produce the specialty coffees that we drink. So in summary, that's where it started. And then it just became a whole chase and a whole interesting adventure, which one day hopefully will be a movie, a book, or whatever. But it's just been one thing led to another. And I mean, I foolishly at that time, very naively, I was like, okay, so I want to start my own coffee company when I get back home. And of course, I knew that I would not go back home without having a degree, and 2 degrees at that. So of course, I think Africans can relate with, when you grow in a middle class sort of family, you're expected to not just have 1 degree, but to go get your master's degree at the same time, and maybe even a PhD. And then you can really tell your parents that, sorry, I just want to be a farmer. And then they'll disown you. And then, so in some, like I think I have like maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I'm enjoying hearing the story of yours. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, don't worry.
I don't want to take up too much time, but I'll just be like, okay, so the essence of it was like, I think naivety was a good thing, because had I known what I know about the coffee industry, I don't think I'd have ever jumped into it with such enthusiasm,
Yeah.
and then like getting punched and hit down every other day, but getting up. Because I think what really has propelled me is the less you know, I think the better sometimes, because some industries are just shrouded with so much bureaucracy and so much regulatory barriers, that had I known how many hoops I have to jump or who I was up against, I would have just given up without even starting. So I'm glad that sometimes um, it's okay, like do your research, but also just trust your instinct, in that if you're still being pushed in that direction of, this is what my heart really tells me that I should do, then pursue it by all means, especially when the universe sort of shows you all the signs that this is what you should be doing. And so I became a self-taught coffee connoisseur. The proper word for it is Q grader. So I am a certified Q grader right now, which is the equivalent of a wine sommelier. Of course, that came with a lot of investment and training. I had to train my palate, but thank God that I have a good palate. So I had to train my palate because nobody will take you seriously just by virtue of the fact that you have passion for producers of coffee in Africa. No, this was the industry is really it's got its colonial structures, and it's run by a bunch of white men, old white men. So for anyone to really take you seriously, you have to speak the language. You have to be toe to toe with these guys. So I really invested in my own learning, my own training. It's an expensive industry to be in. So I mean, even to date, we've really not gotten to the level of capitalization as a company that I would love to be. But I believe we survive by virtue of the fact that we've got a good heart. Like we just don't give up. Like, so we've bootstrapped it all the way, and it's just, the cat that has 9 lives. I would say that's us. It's just everywhere. People try and take you out, and they're like, "Oh my God, she's still here." So yeah. So, and then through all of this, of course, I've met some amazing people. Even if, of course, it's an industry that's, I would say, even in Kenya, it's very cutthroat. Nobody really wants to help anyone. It's people keep to themselves. People want to keep the trade secrets. People, especially if you're a young woman. When I got into this, I was like a baby. Like, people would look at me and they're like, "Who is this?" And I was like the only woman, like driving around in like a small car, putting coffee sacks. And I remember being the warehouse guys making fun of me when I would like load my car with sacks of coffee, and they'd be like, "Why are you spoiling your car? Like, your shocks are gonna be ruined. Like, you really don't have to do this. Like, what is this for?" But for me, like, even just going and picking 3 bags of coffee, roasting it, and making mathematical sense of what my profit was and who I'm impacting by trading directly was my way to slowly build my business model and prove it to myself first that even with the little investment I'd gotten from family and friends, I was able to make back the money and still survive. So I think through that journey of just slowly proving that, okay, if someone lends you, say, $2,000, you can pay the money back. You can. This is the impact that you're having. These are the number of farmers that you're working with. So I slowly had to learn how to tell this story, piecing it together with the visual narrative and with the numbers. So a thing that I've come to love as an entrepreneur is data. I'm a mathematician by profession, by the way. So yeah, but nowadays I'm not so great with numbers, but I'm just like, I actually did math I'm an actuary by profession, but I just don't like, it's not as if someone is, I fight with credit analysts and risk people because I'm just tired of people telling us that we're so, they won't invest in us because the risk is too high. This is bank speak and investors speak when they're like, "Oh, your turnover, okay, collateral." So nowadays, I think I've grown. I mean, in as much as I'm a numbers person, I only want to see the numbers. I don't know, like just the numbers that really make me happy that are, So I learned to slowly weave the narrative using both numbers and sort of the creative things that spoke to me, which was the storytelling that spoke to producers and spoke to the people that we work with, that we sell the coffee to.
Yes.
But in sort of summary, because I know you'll ask me a bunch of other questions. It's just,
I want to know all about, I'm actually very interested in how you approached the smallholder farmers and how you started those relationships. But before we get into that, because I really want to delve into the importance of understanding communities and how and what your approach was within that. But before we get into that, I want to give Sade an opportunity to tell us a little bit about herself and Sour Lemons UK. Why did you decide to start? Firstly, tell us about you, and I want to know why it was so important for you to start Sour Lemons UK.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. It's so nice to be here with you through a screen, but it's nice to see you. Just to let you know, I have my toddler with me. She's 2 years old. She's watching Frozen, and she's coming in and out to tell me what's happening in the plot. So if I get distracted, I'm just saying, go Anna, and then I'm coming back to you. So I founded Sour Lemons in 2016. And at the time, I was a producer. So my background, I'm a cultural producer. I put on theatre shows and festivals and events. And I've designed, throughout my career, I've always worked to figure out why the insides of cultural buildings don't reflect the communities around them. So in the UK, there's just a lot of straight white men and women who run cultural institutions, but on the ground there's a lot of people of color. And so my role was to come in and figure out how can we change that. And so the last 10 years I've done a lot of different things, and it just got to the point I just felt so tired, and I was bored of being the only person sat at a decision making table. It felt like I'd become quite palatable, and that people were kind of okay with me saying quite provocative things, and that I'd kind of been allowed in. And I could just see that we were missing out. Like, if we only have one type of person who gets to tell stories, then everyone misses out. And so I have been really fortunate. Like, the ethos of Sour Lemons is to turn your life's sour lemons into lemonade. I've had a lot of sour things happen in my life, but I've been really fortunate in the way that I've been able to turn them into lemonade. I've had a lot of mentorship and support and opportunities that otherwise, if I didn't have, I wouldn't be here today. So, hi. Mama's talking. Sorry. I've been really fortunate, and at the point, I was working at the Barbican Centre, which is a world famous art centre, and I was the head of community engagement, and we had set up a business plan, and with what had come out of it was like 10 different projects all across the whole organisation, and I was invited to sit on 5 out of 10 groups, and I went to the director and I said, why am I being asked to sit in all these groups? I'm stretched. My job is like 3 times one person anyway. But I don't get why it's only me. Why am I the only one who can sit on these groups? And he basically said to me that, the talent isn't there. Like, we've looked out for more diverse people and the talent isn't there. And it just set off a fire in me. And I was like, I disagree. I think that's lazy. I think it's not good enough. And I think you're just comfortable with surrounding tables with people who look and sound like you. So I left, and the first thing I wanted to do was to design a training program for young leaders who had been through some kind of sour lemon like me. And I wanted to level the playing field for them. So I wanted to give them access to the things that had helped me to succeed, the things that I could see that had helped me to succeed at that point. So like networks, mentoring, opportunities to design and create their own thing, access to exclusive artists and behind the scenes experiences, and just all the things that you just don't get if your parents don't work in the industry, or if you come from a working class background and you just don't get access to those things. So that was what we did in the beginning. And what's happened since then, we've completely blown up since then. And our mission has grown and evolved, as has my journey. So I'll pin it there because you might have other questions, but I can go into that a bit later.
That's so amazing. I think what you both touched on is like the importance of diversity in ecosystems, right? And how it's important to have different people and different voices in a space or in a community. Why do you think it's vital to have diversity in ecosystems? Why is it a must to have different people and different voices? What's the importance of it for you, Vava? What does it bring?
I think for me, especially because coffee is a, um, a crop. It's an agricultural crop grown in what they call developing countries,
Mm-hmm.
and consumed mostly in the developed world.
Mm.
We need to take notice of the people that produce the coffee, and so they need representation of all forms when decisions are being made, because some of the standards that are set within the coffee sector are made without the voices of the producers being at the table. So producers need representation at the highest level when I would say, like I mentioned about Q grading and the standards we use for tasting coffee and for analyzing coffee. Someone else came up with the language without consulting coffee producers. And right now that's a barrier to entry for coffee producers, because when you sort of describe a coffee to a producer and say, oh, it's got a battery texture, it's peach-like, it's a black curranty, syrupy, blah, blah, blah. And you tell a coffee producer that they have to produce a coffee that scores 86 or 90. Can you make that language a little bit simpler in terms of just more relatable? Because a lot of the things that we aspire to as coffee professionals are sort of set standards by the European and American world, and we have to comply without them taking account what it will cost the producer on the ground to comply to those standards. So I've always felt like we all need to be present on these tables where some of these discussions happen. And for the longest time, it's never happened, which is why I would say the coffee sector, having been long steeped in colonial structures, for me, the push has always been that has to end, because you need us as much as you need the coffee. So there has to be an equitable exchange. It's no longer going to be an extractive industry where producers don't get to have a say, because I mean, are the producers growing coffee for just, I don't know, for what do you call it, aesthetics, just for the mere fact that they just produce something, they don't drink the coffee, they don't know how it tastes, and they never get paid for it. So for me, diversity is important, to have all the voices at the table for us to come up with solutions that actually benefit communities, rather than solutions that are just one-sided, that always are sort of exploitative solutions. It's got to be a symbiotic relationship in any, like in the coffee supply chain. I always say it's got to be symbiotic, not parasitic. And I always feel like it's been a parasitic relationship between the coffee importers and the farmers.
And Sade, is that how you feel with regards to the creative and the cultural sectors as well? Would you say it's a similar experience?
Yeah, I really agree. I'm doing stickers. I really agree. It's for us. So I know, like looking back at the things that I've been through in life, the skills and thank you and qualities that I've gained from those experiences, you can't buy. So, you know, I left home when I was 14. That makes me resilient and resourceful. And those are things that you get them through going through sour lemons and processing the things that life gives you. And so when I think of diversity, I'm talking about life. Thank you, Ian. Lockdown's giving me a new skill. No, but when I think of diversity, I think of life experiences. I think of walk of life. I think of, you know, I absolutely think of race, and I think of class, and I think of all the intersectionalities that come with that, and gender and disability. But
oh, baby.
It's okay.
Sorry, no,
Come here,
it's all right. Pay attention to her. It's okay.
It's all right. She's all right. She's just playing with my handbag. But yeah, I think the main thing, you know, there's an economic argument that organizations with teams who are diverse will make more money. Why? Because they have more, they have a broader pool to draw from. If you have, you know, 5 people who all come from the same educational background, they've all lived in the same areas their whole lives, you know, they see the world in a similar way. And so the minute you start to bring different perspectives and walks of life into that mix, you just open up the amount of solutions. So when we think of the creative industries and storytelling, even though, thank you, even though we've had a really big increase on screen and on stage in terms of ethnicity of actors, we've had loads of like really amazing black actors like taking lead shows, and like look at Black Panther, like we've had so many great things, and it shows that it works, it sells, it, you know, it's artistically beautiful. But the lens behind the camera, the lens of the commissioner and the producer is still coming from the same light. And so particularly recently, we've started to move a lot more into Black work and thinking about the stories that get told about Black people, and about kind of, they're either really kind of superhuman, glorified, and, you know, Black excellence and this kind of pressure that's put on you to be all supreme always, or they're like super traumatic and kind of sat within slavery and oppression, and kind of like, where's the normal everyday stories? Like, why can't you just be Black? And so a lot of the work we've been doing in the last year and a half is around addressing anti-racism and kind of how racism plays out in storytelling and commissioning.
Yeah. Wow. Ooh, I got the goosebumps there. I think whenever we start talking about race relations, it hits home when you're a Black person, because you can relate. But I think we've all kind of been through the things that you've mentioned. So yeah, it is it's something that I think within all industries we need to kind of look and delve into with a deeper eye. But Vava, I want to go back to you regarding the farmers. You know, I think being part of any community takes time, and it takes a certain level of understanding. What I want to know from you is, how did you manage, when you decided to start the business, how did you manage to make a connection with the smallholder farmers, and how did you manage to build their trust?
Trust, I think building trust, I think in any sense takes a long time, especially with the farmer communities that have been taken advantage of for years. So, and I can say that being a Kenyan, being a Black woman did not help the process either, because I think this is one thing that I really struggle with in my country, is that I think colonialism really left scars in us. I mean, we all think that white saviorism is the way. So when I showed up on the ground, okay, first, I'll tell you guys a funny story. First, when I talk to farmers on the phone, they always think I'm a man because of my deep voice.
Yes,
so,
don't worry. I'm the same. So I get you. I get you.
I've sat down with farmers the first time they met me. They're like, "Oh my God, we thought you were a man, and because your name is also strange, we were expecting a man, and then here you are, a tiny woman, and I'm not so tiny. I'm not a tiny." They're like, "Here's a tiny woman who's coming," and they're like, "So what can you do for us?" And then they're like, "We're expecting to see a white person, whatever." So for me, I was just like, I had to be real with my farmer groups. I was like, guys, we need to shift our mentality as Africans, and know that help can come from right here. We are the solutions to our own problems. And what tells you that someone who is not a multinational company cannot transform your life? So it took a lot of time, but it also took, a word I like to use is, I look at myself as an expert citizen. I don't know if some of you have come across the word, an expert citizen. Okay, we are all expert citizens because we're all experts in something. But then the producers are citizen experts. They are the ones that live in those communities, and they know more about what the community needs are more than I know. So I can't go to them and push an agenda in their faces without really listening to them and improving my listening mechanisms. It's taken a long time, because I was also like, I do not want to take the approach of a developmental organization. I want this to be a transaction that is profitable for my company and for the farmers. So this is not charity. This is, I'm going to help the producers boost quality to a level whereby the coffee can fetch a certain price. And for the coffees that still need time to improve on quality, we can still get those at home, maybe in the commodity side of things. But the approach has been, we want to work with you, but this is not a charity, or it's not like we're handing you cash. This is a transaction, and it's a long-term relationship that we're building. It's not like we're just coming in and swooping in and telling you what we want, or just buying coffee for one day and leaving. These are relationships we want to build over time. So there's farmer communities that we've been able to really successfully build those kinds of relationships. Of course, not every community sort of intervention or meeting has gone, in a successful manner. But what's worked for us is that people have believed us when they've seen something work in another place. So they start calling us back. Because there's always going to be the doubters. There's always going to be people who are like, oh, she's just a young person who's confused. She doesn't know what this industry is all about. Because I work in an industry that, since 1958, we're still operating as a sector in Kenya with rules from 1958 that benefited the British. So to have all of this change and work for my benefit is like, and then there's the whole politics that plays, within the coffee sector. And I don't want to get into this now. The fact that you're a woman who's trying to play a man's game is also like another sort of
layer,
spanner in the works. It's another layer which, we can't even delve into right now. So in terms of community relationships, it's just listening, but also being committed to what you're there to do. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of convincing, but you have to really, really trust your gut, look at what your long-term goals are. It's never going to be easy, but I think the listening mechanisms are what's worked for us, and also proving, even if it's not in a big way, the first transactions are never like that big, but proving the fact that, one, we bought coffee, you were profitable, we've come back, we've had these projects that are a success, and that makes us have the repeat relationship and the longevity.
That's awesome. We will get into, I actually do want to delve into, the what women go through within these spaces, especially as impact entrepreneurs, and that layer, and what that extra layer brings with it. But Sade, I want to know from you as well, because I'm sure you faced quite a few challenges, like just creating environments that interrogate systems of oppression. I'm sure it wasn't easy. You weren't accepted from the get-go. So can you tell us what some of your stumbling blocks were, and how you kind of, dealt with those?
I think it's been such a broad journey. Like, I've had more sour lemons since setting up the company than I did before, put it that way. Hello? That one. And so it's so hard to even know where to start with that question. Like, to give you some examples, like I've had, I rely so heavily on my network and building relationships with people. And I'm so interested in people and who they are and their walks of life, and kind of, I was told like a really long time ago, if you ask for money, you get advice. So if you ask for advice, you get money. And it's always struck with me. And I always think, like, I'm so like, you can always tell when someone's networking with you because they want something from you, and it makes you just feel a little bit dirty. So I've always been really aware of, like, actually just start from a human connection, like, and build a relationship with someone, and you have no idea where it's going to take you. It might not take you anywhere other than a nice conversation, but like, just be kind and expect, obviously, like, treat people how you wish to be treated. And because that's my approach to life, I've just been so fortunate with the amount of people I've had around me, and people who have wanted to back and invest in me and invest in Sour Lemons and support us, because they see the authenticity in my story and the fact that I'm not doing this for me, I'm doing this for my community, and to make the world a better place. And so because of that, I'd say so many doors have flung open. But also because of that, it's meant I've been quite trusting of people who have had different agendas to me, and I've been burnt a few times. And particularly, like, there was one organization who, in our first year, I just left my full-time job, so I was, doing it for free, and I did a crowdfund. I raised £6,000 to run the pilot program, which is a lot of money, but the program itself actually cost 70,000. So it wasn't anything. So I was really reliant on people giving me their time and their space and things for free, and like, you know, going to people's offices, like my friends being like, can you print some stuff for me on the download, like, and they'd just do it, and like, you know, and getting that kind of support. Anyway, this really, really powerful man said that he would host us in his organization, and he gave us free space, he gave free talks on the program, he took me out for lots of dinners and kind of brainstormed with me, and like, I was so grateful to him. I even let him give a keynote speech at our graduation, like, and you know, and I was just so grateful. And before I went, I fell pregnant that year, and just before I went on maternity leave, I said to him, you know, I'd love to build a program like what I'm doing for you, because I can see all the challenges you've got in your organization, and you know, and I probably wasn't even thinking about charging for it at the time. It was like I just wanted to help. And I went and had my baby, and like 8 weeks later, that organization launched their own creative leadership program based on my entire model. All of my language, like up until this point, they weren't talking about diversity, they weren't talking about leadership, they were talking about artists on stage, they, you know, and that, like, it really hurt, and it really shook my confidence, because I was like, who can I trust? And so I've been burnt a lot in that way. And I've had like other examples is when I've pitched to investors and funders, they've tried to tell me what I should be doing. So in the beginning, I said, you know, Sour Lemons is about the intersection between race and class, because I'm a brown woman from a working class background. And although, you know, walking into these spaces, I met with people who have been to Oxford, who are white, and it's the double barrier that I can't penetrate. And that's what I want to help other young people like me see or get through. And funders would literally say to me, like, oh, no, just focus on race. And I was like, but this is my life experience. How can you tell me what my life experiences have been? And so, but like I said, I just make lemonade out of it. So, you know, them saying that to me, I could have changed the program. And it's kind of ironic that now we've moved more into race. But at the time, what felt important to me as an entrepreneur was the double. And so, and I was really passionate about white working class communities at the time as well, kind of being forgotten. And so I said no, and I rejected their money, and I went and found other ways of doing it. And so I think there's something really key in all of the things that I've just said is around like values. And if you really understand why you're doing what you're doing, then when you get offered money or you get offered something that feels so sweet, like if there's any part of your values that are being pushed, for me, it's a no. I'm not interested. But I had to go through those experiences of being burnt. I just thought of another time I got burnt. I've been burnt a lot. But this one was really key because basically, in a nutshell, I went through a 2-year process with an organization to develop a program for leaders with lived experience. So people who, you know, if they themselves have been a drug addict and now they're running a rehabilitation center for other drug addicts, the belief is that because they've been through it, they know how to do it. So they need money to back them to get off the ground. And a 2-year process to do this. And it got down to the point where we, Sour Lemons, would be designing the whole program, doing the outreach, doing, you know, everything basically. And this organization would just be managing the money because we're small, so we can't manage that size of money. And the grant they were putting in was for £6 million. Like, that is a lot of money. Like, and for me, like, I've never worked on something at that point as big as that. Guess how much they wanted to give us as the lead partner in that whole bid?
Tell me.
60,000.
Sorry, how much?
60,000 out of
from the 6 million. What?
Yeah. And
wow.
Right. And so, and they were all white and in big, like really powerful people.
Wow.
And at this point, just on a personal level, I had just become a single mum. I had just lost my house and I had no salary. So someone offering me 60,000 at that point on a personal level, I was like, okay.
It's money.
It's money. And I need to look after my baby. And I sat on it and I was like, I just can't. And I went back to them and I said, I think you are repeating the exact thing that I have set up my organization to tackle, which is taking money away from the community, taking power away from the community, and feeding yourselves. And I don't want to be a part of that. So unless you can commit to giving 50% of the budget to the community, which would include us leading this work, I'm not interested. And they came back and said no. And I said, then take my name off of the bid. I'm not interested. And that was like one of the hardest decisions I made because of all the personal things I was going through. But it was the best. It really was.
That is incredible. Like, all your burn stories like are really like they're ouch.
Yeah, it's personal too. It's personal. It shapes you as an individual, because particularly when, as you will know, like when you're running something by yourself and you're doing it from passion and purpose, it's your blood, sweat, and tears. No one else is writing that document at 2 o'clock in the morning. No one else is juggling a toddler on Zoom on a Saturday morning.
Right? You know? Wow. Geez. So okay, so we get burnt, right? How easy is it to get back up again? Vava, you were telling me about all the challenges and having to learn. You had to like start from scratch and learn about the industry. And obviously, as you're learning, you're falling and you're burning. How do you get back up again once you've been burnt? The way that I mean, Sade has given us several examples, and I'm sure you've gone through similar experiences. What has kept you going, and how have you managed to get back up again when you experience things like that, where you're like, you're not actually, this just, I can't do this anymore?
Great question, Sisanda. And I mean, kudos to Sade, because I think some of the hardest things to walk away is when you have dependents and you're a mother and you're like, okay, the world's going to tell me I'm stupid because I'm struggling to support my family and I just walked away from a deal. But you have to do what's right for you. And I mean, I think part of this, I try not to become jaded by the world and people, but I think when you go through some of these burnt experiences, or when you're burnt, you start asking the question, who can you really trust and who's approaching me for the right reasons? And that's why, like, I mean, with Sade's experiences, you really have to be clear about who you are as a person and what are your values. I know I've been in those situations where even for grant money, like there's situations where I'm like, I do not care. There's nothing like free money, by the way, in this world. There's nothing for free, nothing. Let people know that even if a grant comes, like, don't be fooled. Grants are not free money. You will work for that grant. And even when the grant period is over, they'll make you work. You'll always be like, and your photos will always be used to, I don't know, tell the story. Or like, in some situations, it's okay. But then there's like some grants that are given to entrepreneurs that are just to tick off boxes for some organizations. And you should be careful when you're getting into those relationships, because they could really compromise who you are as a company. I'll give you an example. Like, we've got into this complex situation, which gave me sleepless nights, where you've got a developmental organization that works with farmers in Africa. And for them, their target is maybe to hit 2 million producers whose lives have been impacted in, I don't know, 2020 or a certain period. And they handpick you to be one of those organizations. And then when you're looking at what the metrics are that they're going by, it's just, it doesn't make sense for you for that industry. Like, and then you're like, the money that you're offering me cannot even do this kind of, cannot perform the miracles that you're asking. Because one, don't forget that these guys that are also giving you money don't understand your industry. A lot of them are not experts like you are. And this is a lesson that I've learned, which is, I've always known that I know more about my business than that person who's giving you the money. So, but I've also learned to listen, because also if you're also stuck too much in who you are, then you sort of miss out on the lessons. But I want to tell entrepreneurs that you know your business more than that person who's offering you that investment. And you should really push back and even do due diligence with some of this, and with every type of investment that you're getting into. And don't ever be desperate, even if the times are desperate. I mean, there's moments when I know I've not been able to meet my bills. There's moments when I don't know, like, there's been bad times. And I think the appropriate word to use is there's been days when there's been a lot of sour lemons.
Yeah.
Or like some really bad coffee. But and how do I get up and get back up to this? I think it's just that innate nature of knowing why I started this. I start asking myself, why have I been doing this? Why did I start this business? Has it all been for, I don't know, has it all been an ego trip? No. Has it all been like, you start asking yourself those questions as to, how did I get here and why did I start this business? Because it's going to be bad days, so many bad days. So you have to really learn to know yourself as a person and know how to deal with, one, your mental health is a sacred thing that we all need
Yep.
to know how to take care of ourselves mentally and how to build our own confidence. Because trust me, even when people see you as an entrepreneur, and sometimes we're called overconfident or arrogant, but you have to be some of those things. Because if you're not arrogant, in a sense, you'll be pushed around by so many people and they will have you do things that you don't want to do. So when you know yourself, I think that there's aspects that will be called out as arrogant or overconfidence. Just as long as you know yourself and you know you're not those and also sometimes being overly confident is a good thing, because it can get you out of like a lot of situations. And I can tell you as a woman, because we're always put down on so many levels, you really have to have that level of being overly confident, because it can really help you fly even when you're not flying, Trust me. So it's like, when you work on yourself as a person and know yourself, know what you stand for, you're taking care of your health, your both physical, mental, and you're surrounding yourself with the right people. And that's also going to be like another tough situation when you get to know who's your tribe, for lack of a better word. Who's your tribe? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Because your tribe should also not be just yes people. They're just people you trust to call you out when you're being an idiot. And they're people who you can go confidently to and feel like you can be really vulnerable with, because they know you. And you can really go like in a very vulnerable situation, pour your heart, and they're like, okay, Vava, you're being an idiot, like just get over it. You're not going to give up right now, and we're here to support you, and just do your thing. Like, so, and I think what people forget is that this journey of being an impact entrepreneur, running your business, was never meant for everyone. So it's really tough, because you're going to be lonely on so many days. Your spouse will leave you. At some point you'll be divorced or left by boyfriends. They will leave you because they think
they will leave you.
They will leave you, and you have to really, that's why I say, don't listen to people that tell you you're overconfident, you're arrogant, you whatever. Those are some qualities that can really propel you to get over those days when you really want to give up and throw it all in. Because don't forget that you're also an inspiration to other people that work for you and that look at you. And sometimes when people are saying certain things, they're just envious. And it's a reality. There's people who are just envious of your journey because they cannot be as brave as you. Because being an entrepreneur requires bravery to another level altogether. You're that person who's like, I can do this no matter what. Like, I don't see how this is all going to happen, but I believe it'll happen. And I'm going to piece the jigsaw puzzles together, and it's all going to make sense one day. So in a nutshell, all those things.
You've touched on so much. And I've got like so many questions, and I don't know how I am on time. And I want to give everybody an opportunity to ask questions as well. But I want to throw what Vava has spoken about back at you, Sade, regarding building supportive ecosystems and ensuring that you know who your tribe is, and you know who the people are that you can lean on, and especially like in the times that we find ourselves in. How vital has your tribe been for you during this time, especially now during lockdown and COVID?
Yeah, so I just saw that comment about call 911, Vava's on fire. Damn right, that was so good. I just agreed with everything that you said. I just want to just to echo it, not repeat what you said, but like, my tribe is my everything. I would not be standing without them. And I'm very conscious that my tribe isn't yes people, that they don't just, I'm also aware of when I call who and when. So So I've got friends who I know they're going to lay into me about this, and I've got other friends who I know be a bit kinder, a bit gentler. Like, ultimately, I think there's a value at Sour Lemons, a mantra at Sour Lemons, which is radical generosity, and it's thinking about there's two versions to it. So one version is about every time you get a bit of the pie, who else are you feeding? And that is really important. So everyone around me has got a generous, open heart, and they are consciously and intentionally sharing what they have with the community, and not what some people do is pull the ladder up behind them. So we are like, let's break this. And so that is something that all of my tribe people have. I said, because we all come at it from that angle, I know that I am held in that space. And there's some background noise. Is someone?
Yeah, that's fine now. There we go.
Oh yeah, it's fine now. Yeah. So it goes back to what I was saying before about values. Having a shared value set for me is really important. The second thing is around radical generosity to yourself. And so I have learned the hard way about burnout and mental breakdowns and mental health. And I am always that person who's doing too much. And so this year, I've had to think really carefully about how I fill up my own cup before I fill up other people's. And it's something that comes unnatural to me just because of who I am and the way I was raised. And, you know, I'm the only girl, I'm the youngest girl of 4 brothers. Older brothers. My mum raised us in a single parent family. So from a really young age, I have had a lot of responsibilities, and I have been kind of shaped into the role of like nurturing everyone around me. And so, and obviously that's throughout my career, I've done that too in terms of working with young people and emerging artists. And so, but particularly with the work that I do, it's really emotional, and people want to unpack on me their experiences around oppression and social injustice. And so I carry a lot of other people, and I found this year I've gone really deep into my healing journey and thinking about the scars that I hold and how I can begin to nurture myself and turn that back on me, not just giving it to others. And one of the things I noticed was that my whole mantra around turning sour lemons into lemonade, it's kind of it served me to this point, but I need a new one now, because what that meant to me, the way I had interpreted it, is that when bad things happen, you suck it up, you deal with it, you take what you need from it, and you keep it moving. But what that doesn't allow you to do is to process. Yes, Papa? You can have more, Papa. It doesn't allow you to process and to sit in the pain. And so I was, and kind of moving on to gender, because I was raised with in a quite a male-dominated environment. I, from a young age, was conditioned, like, you know, you don't cry, you don't moan, like, you know, it's only a bit of spilt milk, get over it. And so that's been my kind of, I've got a toughness about me that's been a survival skill. I'm not mocking it. It's helped me to get to where I am. But there came a point last year when I realized that I needed to introduce my softer side, because wearing armor all the time is heavy. And when you're in a world that tells you that you are not enough, that you shouldn't be here, that you don't deserve the things that you have, it can really hold you down. So that kind of radical generosity for me manifests in a big sister. So because I don't have a big sister, I've made up a big sister in my head. And when I'm feeling really overwhelmed and like I can't do it anymore, I think like, okay, if I had a big sister, what would she do for me right now?
I like that.
And it's really helped, because if I think of like, what would my brother say to me? They'd just be like, so what? Shit happens. It's life. You've been through more. You'll go through less. Keep it moving. But actually, my big sister's more gentle. She's kinder to me. And so that has helped me to kind of start to, be kinder to myself in the moments when it gets too much.
I think I'm going to steal that. I think I'm going to
do
be my own big sister. I think that's such an awesome idea. It's just such an awesome way to kind of deal with things, because it's also hard sometimes to separate yourself from your feelings and from your emotions and the things that you go through. Vava, I want to know from you, what have you been doing to take care of yourself during this time? Do you have a specific self-care routine? Vava, are you still there, my love? You are muted. Do you mind
Oh,
unmuting? There we go.
sorry. Okay, sorry. I had to like quickly, there was a delivery coming in and there was nobody at the door. I'm sorry.
I
Please repeat the
understand.
question.
Lockdown things, I understand. I wanted to know from you, what has been your self-care routine during this time? How have you made sure that you have kept your head above the water and you're okay? I think lockdown has just been a lot for a lot of entrepreneurs, and what I've noticed is some have kind of either pivoted and gone with it and started innovating, and some have just taken the time to just stop and focus on themselves. So what I want to know from you is, what has been your personal self-care routine to ensure that you're okay during this time?
Well, I don't know, like, just to reiterate, okay, something that Sade also said, the importance of filling your own cup first before you, because some of us are givers, and that's like a recipe for disaster sometimes, because you're like giving.
Yeah.
So I've had to, during this time, it's taken, and just reflecting on re-energizing, because I also realized pre-COVID, I mean, I was always on the move. Like, I was hardly in my house. I didn't like enjoy, like, I have a house, but I hardly enjoy, like, it was basically a place I would come do laundry and leave for my next travel meeting and whatever. But it was a disaster. Like, I literally spent maybe 1 week in my house in a month, and I was all over the place the rest of the time. So I think what COVID has done, like, just giving you that space to reflect, even if work has not stopped for sure. Like, we've had to still ship coffee, run logistics. Logistics have been a stressful factor for us. But I think that time to just think, what have I been doing in terms of just my own health, my own needs? Because, I mean, we are all not with the people we love or that we need to be with. But now it's that time of even just self-reflection of also, have I been of benefit in the relationships that I'm in, be it with friends, be it with even clients, and how can we improve things? And I think what has been happening in the world has also brought some of those questions. Aside from the pandemic, it's also like the race issues that have opened up, wounds. I'm telling you, it's been tough because of, like, aside from the pandemic, because it's just brought up uncomfortable discussions of race. And for me, that's taken a toll. I didn't realize how much of a toll that would take, because a lot of the people that I work with, and some of my really close, intimate relationships are with white people. And it's taken a mental toll. I mean, a personal story is that I sit on a board of one of the organizations that represent specialty coffee. And this was a tough discussion for us to have, because the board has been predominantly of people in developed countries, predominantly white. I was the first Black woman to be elected on this board 2 years ago. And I've always sort of pushed back in that I didn't just want to be a token Black woman sitting on the board. So that's also things that have really pulled at my heart, in that I'm on this board, and I would like for some of the things that I speak on to actually, for there to be actionable points thereafter, not just that you can go use my name, that, oh, we have a Black woman, first Black woman, whatever. So we've had some really heart-wrenching things happening, like political, based on this race issue. And so how do I take care of myself? Because I remember that there's been moments during this pandemic that I've literally been depressed, like just really down. But one thing that I always tell myself, even just before we got on this call, I always have to work out. Like, I have to work out a sweat before I get into any situation, like literally, and my shower. That's what I call it. Like, I have to earn my shower every day by sweating. Because
you're making me feel guilty here.
No, for me, everyone's different, but for me, exercise helps me think better. Like, exercise makes me feel that, like, I don't know, like, it's a new chapter, like, it's a new day. It's like, and I like challenges. So I've always been like a sporty, athletic person. And if I don't work out, my mood is like, nah. Like, even my daughter knows. She's just like, Mom, have you had your workout? Like,
I thought it would be, Mom, have you had your coffee? Can't you know it's, Mom, have you had your workout?
Have you had your workout and your coffee? Those are the things that she asks me before she asks for anything. So there's that, and then it's also like just looking for very inspirational things to read, and this like for things that I can learn. So sometimes I may not get that much time to read, but I always try and look for smart ways of absorbing knowledge on the go. And one thing that I've come across recently during lockdown is the masterclass, by the way, the masterclass series on the masterclass website. Because I mean, in Africa, we really, I think we have a problem with storytelling and not sharing in an honest way what we go through. And I find that's been my biggest struggle, that people just hide, like they hide the struggle. And I'm not saying put your dirty laundry out in public, but I'm just like, how will young people ever learn if they think that life is just, because in Africa, we tell the story of, say, Dangote, like Dangote became a millionaire just like that. Like his life, like nobody knows about how Dangote started. Okay, maybe the story has been told, but it's this rosy picture of like, look at all these rich millionaires in Kenya, billionaires. Nobody really tells the I would say the stories that touch your heart. Like you look at Howard Schultz, the Starbucks CEO. I'm giving an example that's industry based, but also when I started out, I picked out some of his books, even if I may not totally agree with the ethos of Starbucks as a company, but he's written some really inspirational books out there that if you're someone who has a dream, you will soar if you just, pick out some of those books. And then Brené Brown is another sort of very inspiring writer who I look to when people have shamed me for being too open. I'm like, wait a minute, vulnerability is a whole thing. Someone gave a TED talk that broke records, and I'm just like, so nobody should ever shame you for being open. But I think in Africa, we shame openness, we shame those moments of weakness when even men are taught not to cry, or like, why are you struggling? I mean, I've been shamed for picking entrepreneurship as a career choice, because even with my own family, it's like, you're educated, like you've got good degrees. Why are you struggling? It's like they don't understand. Yeah, and even my friends, like people I went to school with who think that they can't hang out with you anymore because all you think about is payroll and I don't know which project you're raising money for, and so you stop hanging out with such people. So for me, it's like to keep sane is just, and to also boost my confidence is just the workouts, but also eating well. I love food. Eating a good meal can really make you feel good. Like food. That's why I grow my own food. So food is a thing. Taking care of yourself. I mean, like what Sade said, filling your own cup first. Like, and not being so hard on yourself. Like, enjoy that glass of wine when you need to, and don't let anyone shame you for it. Like, if you deserve to spoil yourself when you know you work hard, spoil yourself, do your nails, buy that nice shirt. Of course, within reason, but take care of yourself. Don't be that entrepreneur that I don't know, that even when people look at you, they see the struggle. Like, they're like, okay, she be struggling. So I'm like, you don't have to splurge, but I'm just like, there's a project I'm engaged in right now, and you guys will get to hear about this. I think I mentioned it to Sisanda and Lindsay. I had to do this book project, Coffee Milk Blood. It's coming out. The book comes out in September. And I always say the importance of women being filled with confidence. So I decided I was going to do a whole project on the depiction on how coffee producers and women who work in coffee would like to be seen, because their lives are more than the coffee that they produce. They are other things. And so we actually dolled them up in good makeup, gave them lipstick, just the things that they don't really get to experience. And you could have seen the levels of confidence that this women producers and these women we work with, how it's sort of elevated to another level of, wow, I never thought I could look like this. I never thought I could feel this confident. And that was the first thing to us, teaching leadership to these young people. leadership skills and communication skills, because oftentimes even in our community we tell women to act small, to be respectful, to humble themselves, not to have loud voices. For me, I'm like, no, there's no shame in having a loud voice. There's no shame in being bold in your thoughts and in how you look. So just go out there. So I believe in lipstick as well, guys. Lipstick can change your mood. Yeah.
You're preaching here. Ah, wow. I've got so many things that I want to ask you, but it would be very selfish of me to just continue this conversation by myself, because like I could honestly have a conversation with the two of you for the entire day. So I'm going to open up to the floor, and if anybody would like to ask Vava and Sade questions, please feel free to either put up your hand or just let me know in the chat box. Okay, X, I see Tlabiso in Joburg has a question.
Yes. Hi, Sade and Vava. So my question goes to both of you. So yesterday we were taught that confidence is a practice. So I would like to ask the question of, how do you practice confidence? I mean, as a woman, I sometimes struggle with imposter syndrome and sort of trying to find my confidence. So what do you do as an active sort of thing to practice your confidence?
It's such a good question, and so on a practical tip, whenever I've got a really big pitch or a really big like meeting that I'm going to or something, I will put on my favorite Beyonce songs, and that's what I listen, and I literally dance it out like before I walk into that space. And so there's something about the queen bee and being like formation that I'll just walk in and it just gives me a boost. So there's something about figuring out something that's like short, sharp intervention that you can do for yourself before you go into any space. I know some people do star jump, some people do like a power pose, some people, but for me it's Beyonce. And I just channel everything into her and I'm like, I'm in. The second thing is, I felt like an imposter for a really long time. And recently, I can't remember the moment I got over it. Like, I think I just did. I think I just had to. But my friend said something to me recently that really struck a chord. And she said she never felt like an imposter because when she looked around the table, everyone else was mediocre. And she means that in the sense that the spaces she was walking into, she was always the minority. And so when she looked around, she was like, is this it? Like, you don't need me here because I'm adding some spice. And so it was something about that reversal that I thought was really quite empowering. And I could see why that gave her confidence. But then she went on to say what she struggled with was survivor's guilt. And I've had this a lot and I didn't have a name for it. But survivor's guilt is when you feel you're kind of riddled with the sensation of like, why me? Like, why am I so special? Why was I picked? Like, why not, Ahmed from down the road? Like, why not, all my amazing friends? Like, why are they not here? Why is it just me? And so that I struggled with more, I would say, than imposter syndrome. So I guess looking around the room, because I was always the only person who had brown skin, who was young, who hadn't gone to university, who was from a working class background. I just knew that I added something different and that gave me the confidence to be there. But what I really struggled with, and to some extent I still do now, is like, why me? Like, there were so many other people who could be filling this spot. But the practical thing that I'll always do is dance to Beyonce. And I think also going back to what we said before about tribe, I have got friends who are like my hype people, who I can literally ring and they'll bring the hype down the phone, that they're like, come off my line. Why are you ringing me for? You know you got this. And I'm like, okay. So, surrounding yourself with, is so important in your journey as an entrepreneur, as a founder, as a maker, a doer. You need people around you who are going to hype you. You need people around you who want the best for you. You don't need people who, when you ring them and go, oh, I don't know if I could do this, they go, yeah. Like, how did you get there again? Or like, oh yeah, do you remember last year when you were really down? Yeah, let's bring you back to that place. No, you need your people to, like, I've got a friend who, if I ring, she'll just be like, close your eyes. in 6 months' time. Tell me what you're standing. Tell me what we're toasting to. So how are you going to achieve that toast if you can't even walk into this space? Like, you need people like that. So that's my that's my hype crew.
For me, it's been, and I mean, some of the things Sade has said ring true to me. Music is an essential part of my life. Like, I wake up, I want to jump into like some good tunes just to lift me up. And I listen to all kinds of things. Like, I remember this week, I was really into, I'm not a super religious person. I'm more spiritual, but I remember Kirk Franklin. Kirk Franklin is a good hype man. And he can hype you out of any like depressive moments. Like, he's like, yes, we can take over. And of course we've got Beyonce and some amazing artists there. But I would say, like, I think also as a mother, I always ask myself, what am I really showing my daughter if I can't truly believe in myself? And if of course everyone has doubts, we're human. And one of my biggest hype people is my daughter, by the way. And I think she's like another employee of my company, because even during lockdown, she's helped me do a couple of videos. And she's like, Mom, you're going to pay me. And I'm like, don't worry, child. You're learning how to be, I don't know, learning all the skills. But she's like one of my biggest hype people. Like, and funny enough, like, she'll always help me also pick out my outfits and like give me advice. And she's like, Mom, no, this is a serious subject. No smiles. That lipstick goes well with that. And I'm just like, I think it's also important, like, if you have children around you, that you're displaying this levels of like confidence in yourself. The biggest thing that has, I think, also given me confidence is doing hard things, like training. Like, for me, because I like hard things, I'm a martial artist as well. So I've always just tried to kick ass no matter what. Like, so I do the taekwondo, I go hard at the gym. And that is also like a way for me to always challenge myself and prove to myself that, yes, you can lift those weights. And every day, like, you up the weight, or you can survive a spin class that is crazy. And I know people may hear this and they're like, okay, I don't know how that, but you will be surprised at the levels of energy, or when you challenge yourself, like to even maybe run or cycle or to sprint, what that does for your system. And I am a believer in exercise and sweating and sport, because sport has done wonders for me. I remember the reason I took up martial arts was also when I was a student in Canada, my father passed away, and I was in another country. I was young. I'd just been sent off as an international student, and I was really close to my dad, and I just didn't know how to deal with it. And I also never got to attend the funeral for family reasons, which just crazy African families. But what I did after that was I swore that I was not gonna like dive into some massive depression. I was like, okay, I took up taekwondo, kicked ass, had a really hard trainer. And from that, I think it was inbuilt in my system to use that as a way to discipline myself. But I mean, on a day-to-day, like, I think for women as well, the key thing is, especially if you're maybe working in an industry that's like old school men, don't try to be a man, is what I say. Just be feminine. Always be feminine. Like, and always also invest in knowing more. Like, if you're going for a meeting or meeting investors, always do your homework, do your research, and try and add your own spin to, you know, certain levels of knowledge. Make it about, you know, sort of, if you're maybe someone who's very passionate about issues on diversity or inclusion or that kind of stuff, I mean, always add those elements to what you truly believe in, to conversations, to delve your agenda into it, but do it with unforgiving confidence. And that's why I say invest in good lipstick. Look at your wardrobe. You don't have to buy expensive clothes. And I've learned to also be very smart, because I'm just like, as entrepreneurs, we need to be scrappy. Like, money is not always there. Have ways of always looking, because confidence can also come out of how you dress. So invest in your personal care. Have a hairdresser who can hook you up, even when you're broke. I mean, I'm just I'm just throwing advice out there, because there are days when money is tight. Have a good hairdresser. Have someone who can come sort you out, like quickly, and someone who's your friend and understands that Vava has to kill this meeting. This is, how she needs to look, because people will always judge you first by how they see you. And I think, one question I got from a young entrepreneur once was, Vava, how do people take you seriously when you've shaved one side of your head? And I said, well, this is, yeah, someone asked me, I said, how do investors take you seriously when you've shaved one side of your head? I said, I don't care, because I'm just like, I've charted my own path, and I chose my own path for a reason. And that is why it is my company. I run my own company. So dress code, even at Vava Coffee, is, as long as you're dressed in a decent way that is according to the company's code of ethics and whatever. Just like, I don't mind if you shave both sides of your head or whatever. It's because life, or people should not be judging you by how, I don't know, if one side of your head is shaved or whatever. They should be judging you by the value that you bring to the table. So, and that's why I say, when you get to a certain level as an entrepreneur and you've honed who you are and you truly know who you are, nobody can shake you. So I think, but that comes with time. And I always tell women, don't, all these voices and people telling you to think small, to play small, don't listen to that. Like, just know that in life you can actually truly achieve anything. Anything you put your mind to, you can do.
Amen. Amen to that. I'm here for Beyonce, for the lipstick, for the hairdresser who hooks you up. I'm here for all of it.
I so agree with you so much. Like, it is really important, and it's also about a form of how you love yourself and how you show up for yourself. And for me, like, the last 2 years, it's been like a roller coaster of sour lemon. And the thing that has got me through it has been thinking about what I put inside my body and how I release my stress. And so I've taken up boxing and running. And I know when I'm the most stressed at work, the thing I want to do is to overeat and overdrink and not sleep as much, because I'm like too busy to look after myself. But in the last 2 years, I've really forced myself to be like, actually, the better the things that you put inside your body, the sharper your brain is going to be. And that, honestly, like, I haven't actively tried to lose weight, but in the last 2 years, I've lost 4 stone because I've had that mantra of not like, I'm trying to say, it's like, how do I look after myself? And because I've been focusing on shining on the inside, it comes out, like, and you can see it. And so I'm a big fan of lipstick. I'm a big fan of heels. I'm a big fan of thinking of what I've got on the next day and planning my outfit accordingly.
Yes.
I take a lot of joy in that.
Yeah, and it's not, and I truly echo that, because some people may think that you're full of yourself, and I'm like, no, how you show up for yourself is super important. And that's why, like, I mean, from everything, like, treat your body as a temple. I know that, but I also don't deny yourself the pleasures of life. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, and I, unfortunately or unfortunately for me, I'm just like, I'm one of those people, like, because I'm in the tasting world. I'm in the world. I have to taste things. So I will not buy bad wine, and I will not buy bad beer, even if it's beer. Nowadays, I just do craft beer. Like, it has the tasting notes. I have to. So some of my friends look at me like I'm crazy, but I'm like, this is my industry. Like, I taste coffee for a living. I give people advice on what coffee to buy. It translates to the wine. It translates to the beer. It translates to what I eat. So even when I'm cooking at home, like with the lockdown, I'm just like, just cooking, loving yourself. If it's just, so don't be afraid to just indulge in who you are, learning how to do that nice makeup on yourself, and just, learning how to just, I don't know, love on yourself, even when you don't feel like the love is there.
Vava, I keep saying you need to come to Cape Town. There are some awesome wine farms here. Maybe we can do like a nice little exchange, wine for coffee, coffee for wine, hint, hint, nudge, nudge,
Totally.
just saying,
do that. Yeah.
Just putting it out there. I think we'll take one more question because I am eating at the time. Does anybody in Cape Town have a question? Maybe I'll take one question in Cape Town and one virtual question, and then I'm gonna have to like. Okay, Luvo. Okay, Cape Town. Can I take Luvo's question because he is just like and then I'll get to the Cape Town guys. So Luvo, go ahead.
As well. Yeah, I hope my sound is good today. Hello, everyone. My question is going to be directed to Viva. You said quite a mouthful and quite a reason, quite a number of things that you said. For me, I'm in the agricultural industry, but purely on hydroponics and aquaponics systems. And I think I pretty much had a similar challenge of which you also iterated on in a manner that sometimes we get exposed to industries that have been designed under colonial structures, and which makes it quite difficult for the Black majority to penetrate and operate within those sectors. And one thing that I want to ask is around funding and capital injection to projects. And you mentioned something that is highly important, that sometimes you don't just get money for free. And the question I have is how one can activate that third eye so that you can really see the bigger picture. Because as entrepreneurs, as much as we're driven by ethical values, we want to open a third eye so that you can foresee all the pros and cons of funding or any capital that one can benefit from. In a form that I really had quite a similar experience, that you realize that as much as we want to establish a project, capital is really essential. But however, by seeing the structures that are in place, and you tend not to agree with those structures, end up turning down the offers. But the question is, in a case where you want to build your business, you want to have a very huge footprint in your business. But however, how can we activate the third eye that you can see all the pros and cons that come with funding? In a case that we want to push our own enterprises, but we still want it to be driven by the same standard and ethics that we design for our own companies.
That's a good question. And of course, with the stories also Sade shared about being burned and just knowing what your values are, I think that the big question, and I think the way funding is set up, especially for Black entrepreneurs, is just a tricky business altogether. But the question is what are you comfortable sleeping at night? I mean, what will keep you up at night? What will make you uncomfortable? And what can you sleep with? Because you're never going to get a term sheet that is just, 100% favorable. So there's always going to be things that are really not in your favor, but what are you comfortable sort of sleeping at night, knowing that this is what you signed, the dotted line, and this is what it said? Because I know what you're asking is that you really want to grow your business, you really want this investment, and you keep turning down some offers, but what are the right offers to take? One thing I've learned is, and I know I've made so many mistakes as an entrepreneur, and even saying yes to money which I should not have accepted because it was not the right amount, it was less. So a lesson I've learned is always ask for what you need. Even if someone tells you this is too much, prove why you need that amount of money and push your agenda. And finally, if someone really wants to invest in you, be it an institutional investor or a private investor, you will find a middle ground somewhere, and maybe phase out your project in certain phases where they do capital injection in various phases, or they do the lump sum. Always do your due diligence on investors. Always talk to entrepreneurs that they've invested in. If they have a portfolio that you can access, or ask them the hard question and ask them, who are the folks, which are the other companies or entrepreneurs you've invested in, and you do your due diligence. Call up this other entrepreneurs, find out what their experience has been, because some investors will be angels in the beginning, and then they'll be demons. Like they'll turn into little devils, like somewhere along the way, and like you will start having some thoughts which keep you up at night. So I always say, entrepreneurs think they can't ask questions. Ask questions. Like, you're not at anyone's mercy here. They want to invest in your business. Ask the hard questions. For grant money, however, grant money is I would say a lesser evil in a way. All you just need to be careful about is the M&A part of grants, is how they'll monitor and evaluate your project. The deliverables, because some people will have you promise heaven, and the heaven cannot come with $20,000. So just push back and maybe say no to things that are asking you, especially in agriculture, because I know agriculture, we require tons of capital, especially if you're talking about you're in hydroponics. I mean, it's massive amounts of capital, but also there's a way of structuring your project such that you phase it out. So if you realize as an entrepreneur, you're not able to raise, maybe if you're looking for $600,000, you're not able to raise $600,000 at a go, break your project into chunks to enable you move forward, because you also don't want to be stuck in one place for like 10 years trying to raise 600,000 and people are like, okay, show us what, because investors will always invest in a proof of concept. If you've proven your concept to an extent, people will respect you more than someone who's just sitting on the couch with an idea and saying, this is my business plan. I've had this business plan for 5-10 years and I've never done anything. I'm just like someone with ideas. People don't respect ideas that have not had legs. So make sure that you're able to you've proven your concept to an extent that so that people can be like, okay, I see you've put in you've got skin in the game, because people also want people who have skin in the game. Like, have you tried to borrow money from friends, family, and fools? They're not really fools. These are just the 3 Fs that we talk about in the beginning. The people that really admire what you do and that will support your project. So I would say, I don't know what stage your business is at in terms of fundraising, but I hope you've looked at the 3 Fs as an option first before you go to the big boys who will now have you have sleepless nights thinking about term sheets and whatever. But if it's a big project you're trying to implement, break it down into chunks so that it's also digestible for you. And look out for, I would say, since I guess you're an impact entrepreneur, have a mix, be the company that can take both grants and debt or equity, so that you're not limited to just one pipeline of investor and you have diversity. Because at the end of the day, I think the best lessons are learned also when you burn your fingers. So I'm encouraging failure. It's good to fail, because only when you fail will you learn the lessons that stick with you, and will you also be a better person. So I'm not going to say, okay, be safe. I mean, take the risk. Sometimes you got to take that risk, but it's got to be a calculated risk. That, am I comfortable taking this risk? Ask yourself those questions. So I think in a nutshell, that's the best way I can answer that question.
Thank you, Vava. Luvo, I hope Uvile, and you got everything that you needed from Vava's answer. Okay, guys, I know I had promised Cape Town a question, but like I'm really running out of time, and Lindsay's gonna kill me. And today I was like, we're gonna be on time. But it's just been such a fruitful conversation.
Do you want a question
we can do one more. If there's a question in Cape Town, you got one question.
Going once?
Going once?
Yes. Okay, I just want to say thank you to the 2 speakers. And my question is, you as women and Black women, and navigating the corporate space that's dominated by a lot of white people. Like, my question is, when you get into an environment where you feel you are undermined, or your voice is not heard, people don't hear when you speak, and maybe they pass remarks that are hateful to you, and you are also within a space whereby you need to present your business, you need to present your dream. I know from me personally, I've made so many mistakes. Sometimes I got very angry, and I fight very aggressively. I know friends who lost jobs, who lost big contracts because they could not navigate that space when we were made to feel very, very small, and they end up not concentrating on what they are supposed to achieve. So it's something that I'm struggling with every time I encounter it when I go to business. So I really want to know from both of you, how do you navigate when you get into that space and you need to achieve this, and this is very important to you, but you feel like here you're being undermined, you're not heard by the people around you. Like, how do you navigate that space?
ladies? Vava,
Sade.
will you? Okay.
I'll let Sade go first on that one.
It's a really complex question. I think I always have my own agenda when I walk into spaces. So I think about, okay, yes, I've been invited in, but like, what do I want to gain from this? And what is the best way that I can gain that? So if it means influencing through another person in the room, then that's what I do. If it means, like, I guess I've become really good at communicating. I'm really good at like measuring a room and being like, okay, this is what I need to get out of today. What tactics? So I have a toolbox of tactics. So do I need to go in calm and just sit and observe and then take my space at the end? Do I need to set it first? Do I need to? And I guess like the more we do it, the more, but all of what I'm saying is incredibly exhausting. Like it really is tiring. And to constantly be in a space where you are basically being a pretzel, where you're adapting around everybody else in order to get across what you need to, it is really exhausting. And this year, I feel like I've really stepped into my power because my organization has got to the point where we are seen as experts in this field. And so when I'm in spaces, I don't feel like I'm on the back foot because I know I've been brought in as someone who is there to make change happen. I'm there to make uncomfortable spaces. I'm there to stop people from like celebrating in their privilege. And so I think because of that, it's given me this kind of a unique angle. But one of the most important things I've ever been taught is to ask questions. It's one of the most powerful ways that you can get across, because yeah, for a long time, I guess, being in spaces and just being like, saying what I need to say and not being heard in the right way. But the minute you flip the question, so for example, if I'm in a space and I can see, like they're talking about, how do we engage the community? And I can see that they don't do it. Then the question I would say is, how are you currently doing it? And then I let them talk. And then I move to, okay, what other ways have you explored so far? Who's doing this well? Yeah, and you're basically getting them to the point of the thing that you know that they need to come to, and it's a long game. But I guess it's just measuring up each space and always having an outcome. Never just being in the space just because. Your time is so valuable. You are so valuable, and everything that you bring into that space is something that no one else in there can offer because you are unique. So it's kind of figuring out your power, your position, and then how you get across what you need to. I hope that helps.
That's so from my perspective, okay, that's a very deep question actually, and which has a lot of complex layers that move from both the psychology of human beings and, like Sade has mentioned, being a good communicator, and even I think parts of what Sade has talked about have sort of psychology intertwined in it, because it's like you're in this space. But one thing I can say is that if you're in a certain space, don't think you're there by mistake. You belong. Because I think something that happens to a lot of us is that you can be presented with all these big opportunities. You find yourself in a space that you feel like, okay, there's nobody else there that looks like you. And then you start feeling like, oh my God, was I in over my head? Do I belong? Because people will make you feel like you don't belong because systems were sort of set up that way to push out some folks like us out of certain rooms. But you have to know that you belong and don't give up on why you got in that room in the first place. So what I would say, okay, this has layers of playing with people's psyche, but also creating allies. Who are the allies that you can get in that room or in that space or in that environment where you feel like you're being undermined or like your agenda is not being fulfilled? Create allies, find allies. Who are the people you can bring on board? And this, like Sade has mentioned, it's a lot of work, man. Like in some of these things, as long as you know what you want to get out of a situation, be prepared to play this psychology games and beef up your communication skills, and within no time you will learn that you have those people wrapped around your finger and they're giving you what you want. You may not fully get everyone on board, but just learn how to play the game, because life sometimes is about some of these small games, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you want to get something out of a situation. But just know that you belong. So don't give up. Don't have circumstances or other people or systems make you feel like you don't belong, or that it's like when entrepreneurs are maybe trying to get contracts from big companies or even from maybe government-run institutions, and you always feel like you're up against other people that have more leverage. Just keep trying, don't give up, but also start making allies and start building your own network of people that can help you get there. So for me, that's what I would say about that.
Thank you so much, ladies. Wow, I'm full. I'm full of knowledge. I'm full of love. I'm full of inspiration. I'm just like, I'm all sorts. I'm all sorts right now. So thank you so much for just taking the time to share your journey with us, and you know, answering our questions and making us feel seen and valued. I think that's what I'm taking from your conversation. I feel seen and understood and heard. So thank you. And thank you to your daughter as well, Sade. She's just been so awesome. Thank you.
I don't know where she is.
just tell her thank you from us for like bearing with us.
Thank you for
and
having
allowing
us.
allowing us to have some of your time. Ms. Vava, thank you. As I said, the invite to Cape Town is always there if you want good wine. And hopefully we'll get to see and speak to each other soon.